Have yourself a merry little Christmas and welcome one and all to the Secret Crisis Podcast, the latest nerdy podcast to cruise through the multiverse and right onto your listening platform. I am your co-host, Chris Markland.
And I'm Jaiden Jones.
And on this special Christmas, festive, holiday, whatever, spectacular, today we're going to tackle a very, very, very interesting topic. But before that, Jaiden's going to tell us where. Jaiden, why don't you take it away?
Hey, everyone. Hey, guys. Before we start, just hop over to wherever you get your podcasts. You can find us at Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Breaker, Pocket Casts, Radio Public, and also YouTube right now at the Secret Crisis Podcast. Subscribe, like, leave a comment if that's where you're at. On Apple Podcasts, leave a rating. We would really love to hear the feedback. But 5-star would be great. We'd love that. But give us what you feel you deserve. And check out the past episodes if you're really interested. If you enjoy this episode and want to get more, this is your first episode, go check us out more. And thanks, guys. As of now, this will be our last episode for the year. And thank you for all that have tuned in from the first episode till now. It has been an interesting, it's an interesting time from our first episode to now, and we are looking forward to the new year for sure for the future of the podcast. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, all the stuff that we hate from 2020 may not be going anywhere, but neither is the Secret Crisis.
Yeah.
So you can count on us for all new content within the new year. So today is going to be a very special episode. We're going to break format a little bit. Instead of going into talking about comic books or talking about movies, today we're going to talk about something a little more topical for the holiday season. Santa Claus versus Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it's that is not something that most people would be expecting. You would not expect those two to go, two bearded brothers, just go.
Yeah, never before, never since Logan Paul versus Floyd Mayweather have you heard of such a mismatched versus pairing. But we got it right here, so let's take it off to the races. Jaiden, this was your brainchild, so why don't you take the lead?
Yeah, so normally, well, I wanted to start off saying what for you Christian, what has been your experience both just growing up with the person of Santa Claus and the idea, what was your growing up in your childhood with that character?
Well, it's a little complicated because as a kid I was always brought up to my parents always talking about Santa Claus, my family always talking about Santa Claus, always hearing about Santa Claus in school. So I was always aware of his presence, but I feel my faith in Santa Claus wavered a bit at a very young age. I remember thinking to myself when I was maybe 7 or 8 or just thinking, just questioning the logistics of the whole Santa Claus thing. We don't have a chimney. We don't have a fireplace. So does he travel the entire world in one? Are there multiple Santa Clauses? Because why did I see Santa Claus at Scarborough Town Center Mall, and then we went to Marksville Mall and we saw Santa Claus there? It's bro, this guy's fast, dog. Normally he's able to come across the entire world in one night. And I see him in Christmas specials all the time, and sometimes he's a cartoon, sometimes he's a puppet, sometimes he's a live action dude. And, yeah. Sometimes in the mall, he's a black guy, and sometimes he's a white guy. It's oh, what? I'm a little confused.
Yeah.
For me, Santa Claus is always one of the more absurd childhood nursery rhymes that you get told at night a little bit harder for me to believe that like Santa Claus would be able to exist as opposed to like say the Tooth Fairy, or like maybe even the Easter Bunny, even though like the Easter Bunny makes like the least sense. Like, I still like want to like figure out how you get from like the concept of Easter to a giant talking Bugs Bunny ripoff that like breaks into your house, like gives you eggs filled with candy. Like what? Where's the connection? I don't see it at all. But at least Santa Claus, you can kind of get there are a little like loose parallels to like the original connotation of like what Christmas is all about, but we're gonna get into that a bit later. So yeah, I was always aware of Santa Claus. I believed in him for a time, but after a while, the older I got, the less sense it made. Like I never, like no one ever had to sit me down and like give me the talk like, hey, he ain't real, bro. Like I never had to get that. I kind of figured that out on my own. But yeah. So what about you? What are your experiences with Santa Claus?
Yeah, mine was actually quite similar to you. My parents never really, like, my parents never really emphasized on Santa Claus so much, and it didn't, because to me it didn't make sense. Same process as you. Like I was like, well, I don't have. At least at the old house before, when we get back in Markham. You saw our house for had chimneys. We never had a fireplace. Like, so where's this guy gonna come? Is he just gonna squeeze to the vents? Like, I know, like, he's a little big for that, but like,
it's the Christmas magic.
Yeah. I'm like, really? How am I gonna right? I thought, I'm like, he probably comes to the events then. Okay, cool. And I just gotta move along. And on Christmas Eve, I would stay up like, at night, just like looking. I remember, several Christmas. I remember staying.
You're like Patrick in that one SpongeBob Christmas special where he's trying to like catch Santa Claus, and like he's like waiting up at night with a butterfly net, being like, "You gotta show up sometime."
No, really. Like I would like sneak downstairs whenever I want to sleep in, looking, and I see the Christmas tree glimmering. I'm just like every creak. I'm like, yeah. I did that several times, several Christmases. Yep. For sure. Waiting for this guy to show up, looking at the vents and everything. No, I was really convinced. I really was.
Perimeter secure.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of times I'm like, well, I guess, and when I didn't see him, I was like, well, I guess he's just like he's just gonna come when I'm not aware, because I like dip. I could not stay as later than like what, this is like when I was like 8, 9, I think. Like I could not stay later than like 10. Like I just like gone by then. Yeah, so I'm like, well, I guess I didn't wake up, and then there's the presents. Like my parents, see, the thing, my parents never. I don't think, at least for me, I don't think they never tried hiding. They didn't try hiding the fact that they were the ones doing the rapping. They never did that. It just eventually I kind of put 2 and 2 together. And then I'm like, oh, and I was disappointed. Like I would watch the movies, the typical Santa Claus. All of them. And I love the character of Santa Claus. Okay, interesting. I can only remember a couple times. I don't know about you, but I only remember a couple times that I actually went to see Santa Claus at the mall. A couple times. I only went a couple times. And probably many other times I just don't remember. I don't know if that was my parents for that. But I did not. Yeah, it did not last long. I don't remember a particular age. I just remember. I think I just stopped believing. It's like, yeah, I think it's how does this guy make it around the entire night in the entire world at one night?
Yeah, really? On a diet that consists solely of chocolate milk and cookies.
Yeah, yeah. Like, the way you think about it, it's like, really? And
I feel
without,
like I saw one Christmas special where it was like the origin story of Santa Claus, where like he was like Kris Kringle or something, and like he took up the quest to like deliver presents to all the children of the world, and like I think that in that movie it took place in like the 1930s or 20s or something. I'm like, how old is this guy?
yeah, yeah.
Like I was probably like concerned that like Santa Claus was starting to knock on death's door. Like,
Yeah, yeah. How does this brother? Every guy with a beard like him, I see can't even get to their front door. Who's as big as this man, bruh? Yeah, that was my experience. Very similar to you. Yeah, I think like and a lot of people like the tooth fairy. I don't think I believe in the tooth fairy for a bit, a bit similar to like Santa Claus. I just kind of figured it out like that kind of came after Santa Claus. Easter Bunny? Easter Bunny never made sense to me. It's weird. It never made sense to me. That was the crazy.
It doesn't.
Now the one thing I will say, the one thing that actually kept me in the idea of the Easter Bunny that I did love was the movie Velveteen Rabbit. It was I remember when I first got it was my mom. She got me this. She brought it home in this package, like those deluxe type of packages, and it was the story had this talking rabbit. Look, it was like a stuffed rabbit, and then he would come to life and he would do all this stuff. I was like, oh man, that's so cool. I like that. But then not the Easter Bunny. The Easter Bunny's so weird.
Like once you get past like Bugs Bunny like chopping on the carrot saying "What's up, Doc?" or like even like the rabbit from like the Nesquik commercials, like silly rabbit jokes are for kids. Like Easter Bunny.
Yeah, the Easter Bunny was too out there for me. But yeah, so the reason for this episode was really I thought it would be a cool contrast between the two main figures, I guess you could say, between the central Western culture, or just the culture of Christmas, will be a Santa Claus figure, the personification of the magic of Christmas, as they tend to say, and then the root of that, which would be the first Christmas, which would be Jesus, and kind of comparing and contrasting the two figures and what they have to offer between the two, both in their significance, and also what I guess you could say their attributes, the culture as a whole, in essence, at least to try to attempt to tackle that.
Yeah, so just to start off, I think what we should really like preface on is just like how sort of the legend of Santa Claus came to be, because like I feel like I hear the story of like how Santa Claus became the like cultural phenomenon that he is today. I feel like I hear that story every year, but the following year I forget every time.
Yeah. It's quite interesting. As I started to do a bit research, I wish I would have gotten the book. There's a book I wanted to read again about it, but as books these days, as you know, every book ordering books actually come on as when you would like them.
It be like that sometimes. Like
yes.
Looking at you, wish.
Yeah.
Guys are clowns, bro.
Yeah, I learned that for this Christmas, ordering books. It's real pain. My gosh.
Amazon.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so
because Jeff Bezos definitely needs more money. Help the guy out this Christmas season. Anywho,
yeah. So as you mentioned on how the question of how does this Santa Claus this I guess it's fair to call him obese. Like this obese, a bearded man, with supernatural abilities, riding across the entire world on a dozen reindeer, to deliver presents to kids of the entire world. How that came to be. So now, as we have heard before, the term, we have to go back quite a while to the pardon?
Flashback.
Oh, flashback. Yeah, to the guy named Saint Nick. His name is Saint Nick of Myra. I'm probably butchering that. Either Myra, probably butchering that. Myra. That would be in what would now be modern Turkey. Yes. He was born on, traditionally on March 270, 270 the year, and died on the 6th of December, 343. That was that's when he died.
340 the year?
Yeah, the year. Yeah.
Damn, I didn't know it was that far back.
Yeah. It's quite a while. It's got so his name is also he's also known as Nicholas of Bari. But so basically the story goes on how with what little is known about this guy, Saint Nick. He was a bishop at that time, and he would go around the town, throwing sacks of gold into the different the windows and whatnot. So imagine you whatnot and
just going around making it rain.
Yeah, like so when as I found out, a lot of it was at the time there was a lot of prostitution, and what he would do was he would throwing the gold, he would provide the fathers to go buy back their daughters that were buy them back, like so that they not like as prostitutes, yeah. Yeah, hopefully, like that's like hopefully that's not the case, so that they could free them and whatnot and so on and so forth. And so that he became that his spreading cheer and love, and also through the gospel. He would walk through always with the gospel in his hand, and professing the love of Christ and the joy of his birth and whatnot. And so that spread all that his story of Saint Nick, even long after he died, for obvious reasons. What's the word? Yes, became widespread throughout the Middle East and Europe. So and as a result, after he died, it became a legend. So this is where the interesting part comes in. As Christianity started to come into spread throughout the Middle East and Europe, when it came to the Scandinavian countries, particularly Norway, as the idea of like, so for example, where we get the I'll leave that to later, and then I'll finish this. Where the idea of reindeers come from, where does all this like? Why is he flying around with reindeers? Normally, because normally it was like, well, why won't you just use horses? Are horses better than the reindeers? If you're thinking about it, if you want transportation, why don't you get magic horses? If you really think about it. Yeah. The reason why is the idea of that mythos of riding around on some type of creature was predicated on of Jesus in Revelations, where he's figured the figure of riding on a white horse to judge humanity and whatnot, and so on and so forth. Now, when that came to the whole mythos came to just Christianity came to Norway, they didn't they didn't have horses. They didn't have horses there. So in their mind, it's like in their minds, the next best thing was a deer, was reindeer.
Oh.
So that's why it became when at Santa Claus that whole idea became reindeer was its thing, and the dozens of reindeer that's just part of the
Dasher and Dancer and Prancer and all the man them.
yeah yeah. So that's where that's part of the big story of where as time goes on, as you can imagine, with all the elves and that comes from all the different mythologies, and as we know of before the West even, well, at least it came to the North Americas that had already been accumulating before it all, and so by the time it even came here, the legend of Santa Claus, this figure, had already been quite well established. It obviously has been very much more in our last century or so since like cinema, the cinema, movies, TV shows has been very well established in our culture. That figure comes from. So that's some of the story to answer some of your question. There's more to it, but we'll get to that later.
Whoa, that's fascinating. Wow, like I did not realize that like Santa Claus was so old. Like I thought that like he came by like or that he like existed like a lot more recently. Wow, I did not realize that he was like all the way in like the year like 300 and something. Wow.
270. 270.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's
quite a while.
Mad.
Yeah, quite a while.
So what do you think? What do you think is it about Santa Claus that like has made him such a long-standing figure that has like made him synonymous with like the season of Christmas, with like the whole Christmas spirit, with like, and just like in our culture in general, like the very fact that like that Santa Claus has basically become like the avatar for Christmas. That like whenever the first thing that like most people think about if you're to like ask them about like who's the first person you think about Christmas, like odds are people will think of Santa Claus first. Like, why do you think that is? Why do you think that? What do you think is it about him that's so enduring?
Yeah, good question. Yeah, I've thought about this a bit. Obviously, other than the child, like it's mostly children that are captured by the idea of Santa Claus for a variety of reasons. I mean, well, most children will basically love anything, and really anything as long as we're getting something. We're getting gifts. Well, that's
fascinating.
Yeah.
You can tell my presents are being delivered by Ted Bundy. Like as long as I'm getting like a new race car, I'm good.
Yeah. No, really. Really, honestly, yeah. That's just part of the innocence of children and the imagination. We love to imagine, great imagination, the awe of a child. I think one of the major reasons, other than the root person, which would have been Christ. That's where it's all predicated. That's the root figure. Other than that kind of pushing that figure, I guess you could say, on along. I think it's the idea of, I guess as humans we tend to want to be rewarded for the good that we do, that we do, so that we can get getting presents at Christmas. So you get the naughty and nice list, and you put on that. Or if you're naughty, get coals. You get coals like Crocker.
Like funny enough, like there have been many iterations of Santa Claus that I've seen over the years, but like the one in DC Comics is especially hilarious. Like there are several Christmas specials where like Santa Claus is like a central figure in like DC has done like a lot of Christmas specials like starring Santa Claus. They even did like I think a Santa Claus origin story called like Klaus, which is like Santa Claus's quest to like shouldering the burden of like delivering presents to like children everywhere. But like, there's one Marvel DC Christmas special from like the 70s where like they say that Santa Claus literally travels to the planet of Apocalypse every single year.
What?
Just to deliver a lump of coal to Darkseid.
You're kidding.
Like he gets through all their defenses. Like he gets through all of their like fiery pits, the like female furies, everything, just to deliver a lump of coal to Darkseid and be like, "There you go, my boy. Ho ho ho! I'm off." Like, like what?
That is amazing. Wow, just to deliver some calls to Darkseid.
Like, gotta admire the dedication, bro.
Yeah, wow. That is amazing. Wow, really? I didn't know that DC does Christmas specials. Actually, not surprising. Almost every.
Oh yeah, they do it all the time. Like DC does it more than Marvel, I think. But yeah, DC does it all the time.
Oh wow. Huh. So wait, is he like an alien man? Is he like an alien or something?
They don't really go in. It's normally just like he's a magic. He has magic powers basically. That like he's a like centuries old sorcerer who has like harnessed the power of Christmas magic and is able to use it to perform like impossible feats.
I see. That is very interesting. I did not know that the DC ever did that. Huh.
Yeah.
I should. Have they ever done iterations of Justice League or anything?
I'm sure they have. Like I've seen stories where like I've seen like, or at least I've heard of stories where like Santa Claus and Batman have teamed up. Where like,
Really? Wow.
like Santa Claus is very, very like intrinsically
willingly. Well, Bruce teamed up with the old jolly old man willingly. He's a little too jolly for Bruce Wayne.
Yeah.
For Gotham.
Santa Claus probably couldn't even fit in the Batmobile.
Right? Yeah. Just tell him, sorry, Bruce. You just have to really scrunch himself in that. He's like, want some cookies? Yeah. So one of the things I wanted to do just to kind of I guess kind of lay the scene on some of the mythos around what do we know about when we think of Santa Claus, what comes to our minds, right? Other than other than the big gut and the beard, the jolliness, the presents. What are kind of his aspects? So I thought it would be cool, like, talk about kind of the interesting aspects about him, like his supernatural ability, apparently, to like to be mere omniscience, to be able to see.
Yeah, like he sees you when you're sleeping, knows when you're awake.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. From the Santa Claus is coming to town. Yeah, you better watch out. You better not cry. I'm telling you, you better not pout. I'm telling you why Santa Claus is coming to town. He's making a list, checking it twice, gonna find out who's naughty and nice. Santa Claus is coming to town. Now, it was interesting. What I wonder, I was kind of preparing and just thinking about this. I was wondering, Santa Claus, like, does he know that you are naughty or nice, or does he is the list just if you're bad and you're good, that you just appear on the list and he just reads it? Is he of omniscience, or does he like or near omniscience, or to know or to see the bad things or the things that you're doing. Like I
Yeah,
still.
and then you get deeper into like what qualifies as like being naughty or nice, what qualifies as like good or bad. Like if you want to get into the whole like the good place philosophical debate, like how what qualifies as like good or bad, like because people do bad things for good reasons all the time, and people do good things for bad reasons. So like, what exactly is the root of it? Is the root of
Yeah.
it like your intentions in like when you are trying to do something good as opposed to like when you're not, or like is it just like the reaction or like the result of your action? Because if that's the case, then like pretty much nobody's getting presents this year. Like nobody's getting
Yeah.
presents at all. Because like we are like we as like in Western civilization are privy to like so many different like morally compromising scenarios that like we don't even know about, like even supporting like certain brands or like buying certain clothes or like
Mhm.
listening to certain artists are like enabling like very very morally questionable like actions that they like people are like
Yeah.
children
Yeah.
are supposed to work at sweatshops and like we're here like they're making the clothes on our backs like
Yeah. 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 You're right.
like
Yeah.
what exactly qualifies as good or bad and Santa Claus is bad, or like is just because like he can see you when you're sleeping and knows when you're awake, does that mean that like he has the like you said omniscience to be able to like discern who what truly lies within your heart? Or like, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you get down the moral country, and you're right. Like the good place to check.
Well, like, and then
Yeah.
again, like if you want to go into it even further, if I'm just going to like put my tinfoil hat on here, like then when you go into the song Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, which like looking back at it now really pisses me off. The fact that like Rudolph, this poor guy born with like a nose that glows, which if I knew a guy that like had a nose that glue, that would be awesome, bro. I'd be like, yo, how do you do that? Like, how did your nose do that, dog? Like, I want to know what his secret is. Like, I don't want to know that guy, but like, nah, the other reindeers be like, nah, we ain't messing with him. Like, he got a glowing red nose. It's like, bro, what? Wouldn't let him play any reindeer games and stuff. Like, getting bullied by everybody for his red nose. And Santa Claus turns a blind eye. No intervention whatsoever, not even in the movies. Like, I never once in any Rudolph movie that I've ever seen have I ever seen Santa Claus be like, "You cut that out, you other reindeers. Rudolph is just like the rest of you, and he deserves your respect." Like, no, it's not until like Rudolph has to prove his worth that like he gets Santa Claus's respect, that he actually like, and that he actually like gets the recognition of like the other reindeer, the other reindeer bullies, which like again talk about fake people showing fake love to you straight up to your face, bro. Like, were you not
Right.
making fun of me just yesterday?
Yeah.
And now
Right.
because I saved Christmas, all of a sudden you want to be my friend? Like, nah, get out
Oh,
of here.
Rudolph, show us your glow again. Woo. That where were you the other day?
Nah, dog.
Where have I go?
I may have a red nose, but that don't make me no clown.
Yeah. Mhm. Yeah. Maybe you know what? Maybe the reason why that Santa Claus never said anything because he's trying to avoid the attention from himself from that red nose he got. He got a red nose as well. Like from that clothes. That's what that's probably why. He's probably ashamed. That's why he's probably ashamed.
It's just like fear. It's just like omission out of fear. Just like, hey, I know that if I get like involved, I'm gonna be in the same boat as you. So like,
Yeah, they gonna roast me too.
better you than me, my friend. Like, I got this to look over.
Yeah. Oh my, yeah. You're right. That it kind of it's very interesting. So when he makes his nest naughty or nice. Oh, is Santa Claus like you asked the question? What is even good or bad? What does that actually mean? Like what defines what goodness is and badness is? Like I was thinking from especially from the time especially centuries ago, like what was necessarily good, good in that sense. I would have been saying good and that I've been putting air quotes over them. Uh, Centuries ago is very different from what is now. So is that what naughty and nice is somebody that like I was thinking about this, like is somebody that is could say, well, even yeah, and we can talk about from the 60s group in 60s 50s, um may have gotten Cole's no, not Cole's. Oh, it could be vice versa. Could have gotten Cole's as a kid, but getting Cole's now. No, not Cole's, not Cole's now. Sorry, I'm getting presents now. Because and they made it on the good list because they meet today's standards, or the vice versa. Like, what changed? Like, say like not much has changed with them, but apparently but what has changed is cultural standards. So it seems to me that good and bad seems to be more arbitrary than like in terms of Santa Claus's uh standard is more arbitrary than just the consistent standard of what good and bad is.
Yeah, if we're like going in terms of like individual actions, sure, or like in terms of like the the individual scenarios that like we as humans find ourselves in like day to day. But like if we're talking about like if we were to like average out our actions as a whole over the course of a year as a whole, that then I feel like, well, I don't really see that changing so a whole lot with time. Like I don't see that changing a whole lot because like again, like I said before, like a lot of people do bad things for good reasons and vice versa. A lot of people do good things for bad reasons. Like so if say like someone like Robin Hood, for instance, steals from the rich, gives to the poor, that whole jazz. I've never actually read the original Robin Hood folklore, but like I'm semi familiar with the character basically from the Disney movie and that one Shrek movie. So like steals from the rich and gives to the poor, is that considered good or bad? Because you're doing a bad action, but for good reason. For good reason to give to the poor. Like what is that? Does that qualify as good or bad? Or like say like war veterans or like aren't or like the military going overseas and like fighting for their like in most cases like a lot of military troopers don't know exactly what they're fighting for, don't know exactly the cause that they're like privy to. All they're basically told is that like you're going to serve your country, you're going to like make your country safe for like the people living in it. So in their mind, they are defending their homeland. They are like rescuing people. They are like they're the good guys in this fight. Mind you, on the other side, like a lot of them are like a lot of like people in like these small villages overseas or like in like other places like say like the Vietnam War, like a lot of people thought we were the big guys, and look at us now. Like look at back in history, like
you are right in terms of the guys from the bad reasons and whatnot. It gets into like you suggest it can kind of an inconsistent while also a confusing scenario of again to the question, what constitutes, what defines goodness and badness, what constitutes bad or good or evil, and so like I had mentioned before, how the idea of, at least when Santa Claus of where he has the list of good and bad, does come from, again, it's the same idea of Revelations of Jesus is judging the living, the dead, the living and the dead, and the punishing evil and so on and so forth, and that the final judgment, and that's where that idea comes from. Now with Jesus, we'll get to that, is obviously very different than this situation that we're talking about, Santa Claus, because They are vastly very different figures. Yes, very different figures. But yeah, that's where that concept comes from. Like, I wanted to ask you. So, for you, who have you ever thought, like, when you were watching the movies and whether I don't know, have you watched like Santa Claus, and have you watched
Nah, I didn't watch that. What is that? One of the Airbuds movies?
that? Insane. I think it's about the same dog, but the different narrative. No, it's
Either way, I didn't watch
like Santa Claus. Santa has like these little pups. I think they're golden retrievers. I believe they're golden retrievers. That's how I thought of them. Like little pups that can speak, and they have. Sometimes they have different abilities, different magical abilities. Sometimes they don't. At least in the iterations that I've seen, and they go around trying to save Christmas. Something happens, and they have to go and do their business to save Christmas. The magic of Christmas is being lost, or something like that. Santa
It's
kind
like
of
a very
comes.
common trope in like a lot of Christmas specials, at least that I've seen of like
Mhm.
different television shows and even different movies. Like something happens to Santa Claus, either like he gets like knocked out or gets like injured, he gets like got the snuffles or like gets like or like trips in the bathtub or like whatever. Somehow Santa Claus is out of commission, and like the main characters of the story have to like pick up for Santa Claus and like deliver toys to like all like the children around the world and like save Christmas. And like I remember even as a kid like watching all these different Christmas specials that like follow this exact same formula, like say Phineas and Ferb or like Mr. Young if you're Canadian YTV watcher, or like even like uh, why did I have so many examples? But now that I think about it, I can't think of a lot. But there are a lot more that I'm sure I'm forgetting. But like they all follow this same formula. And I remember thinking to myself when I was a young man, like just or like a child, I was like, wait, Santa Claus is so magical. How does that happen to him? Like, how does it just like my guy just get taken out of commission like that? And like, need some like rando to like pick up his slack. Like what?
Yeah, yeah. I think it was it Fred Claus? Was it Fred Claus, his brother? I think.
Oh yeah, that's true. That's and like this, and I saw like a bunch of Christmas movies that were like, oh, the children of Santa Claus, like he had kids and like they have to like work to like pick up his like legacy. And it's like a family affair, and it's just like, what are we doing? Like,
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. It's quite it through so many of the movies that we have seen. That's no some of the conflict that they will do. Uh, now, now we'll get to kind of the interesting when we asked the question of one question I wanted to ask, like, what is the magic of Christmas that even and we're gonna, if anyone's wondering, we will soon getting to the part of we're going to be going into Jesus part of this whole scenario. Um, what is the magic of Christmas? Like when you think about it, Christmas, what do you mean? Like what does that mean?
I'm glad you asked me that, Jaiden, because if you ask, in my opinion, one of the greatest television Christmas specials of all time is season 2, episode 10 or 11, I believe, of a little NBC comedy show called Community, which is the episode Abed's Uncontrollable Christmas, where they like basically break for like if you don't know about Community, it's this like really really like prolific, very meta self-referential sitcom that like plays with a lot of like storytelling conventions and like innovates like different ways to like make their episodes, and it's just like a very it's a hilarious show. It's one of my favorites, one of my all-time favorites sitcoms and shows in
Mm-hmm.
general. I really recommend that you check out Community. It's on Netflix now. It's on Netflix,
Yeah.
so if you feel free to, I'm just gonna plug that one time. But like yeah, there's this episode of Community where that's like all claymation, where like they're basic Abed, the one of the characters, is basically trying to like find the meaning of Christmas. And like as you find out through this episode, like it's basically the whole claymation animation, which is because
Yeah.
the show was originally live action, but for that episode it was claymation animation.
Mm-hmm.
So like as you find out, it's just this character Abed having a psychological break because like his mother wasn't able to like come for Christmas, and he just ended up like flipping the hell out and like having this like whole constructing this whole like whimsical magical fantasy. And there's this line that happens at the end when like all is said and done, that I think maybe Annie or something says it, that like always when I think of Christmas now, it always just stuck with me. To me, the magic of Christmas is the idea that the coldest, darkest nights can be the warmest and brightest. Which, whether that means through the knowledge of the love of Jesus Christ and the sacrifice that he made so that we can spend all of eternity with him, or the joy of knowing Christ that gives you that warmth and joy, whether it's the warmth of being surrounded by your friends and family, being surrounded by the people you love, which is looking a little different now, but or like whether it's just like sitting by a warm fireplace with like, you know, like someone you love, or like, to me, or like going in the like walking through the mall and like seeing people with like smiles on their faces, and like everyone is just always like a lot more friendly and like a lot like nicer and a lot kinder, and like it's a time of year that inspires people to like give back to the people in their lives, to like act selflessly and to like spread kindness and joy. And to me, that's what Christmas is to me. The idea that the coldest, darkest nights can be the warmest and brightest. So what do you think? What does Christmas mean to you? What's the magic of Christmas?
Yeah. So other than the like magic from gathering family, that's other than gathering family and having dinner and praying and we open presents, like other than that, the magic of Christmas, I mean, it's not to me, it's not the typical, it's not directed to Santa Claus, because when I don't believe in Santa Claus. It is the joy and hope that we have in Christ, that the Word became flesh and dwelt among us, came in the form of a baby, and that the hope that brings us, that remembering that and being grateful to the gratitude that can bring of that same baby who one day would do what he came to do, which is ultimately to die, and for our sake. So that's it. That can be weird to some people. Some people might think that's weird, but
it is weird. Like, I mean, it's true. It did happen. Like, even as someone who like hears the Christmas story like every single year, even I have to admit, it's a weird story, bro. It really is. Like,
yeah, right.
The very fact that like it starts with like Mary, who like is getting married, who's supposed to be like betrothed to Joseph, and like getting married and like spending the rest of their lives together. Then all of a sudden she goes away to like visit her cousin or something, and then all of a sudden she comes back, boom, pregnant. It's like, my guy, what? Like,
yeah.
We can come here talking about like, the Holy Spirit is the Father. God impregnated me. He planted the seed in my womb. I'd be like, if I was, that's why Justice for me is one of the most like, his faith is just like stronger than I could ever comprehend. Because if my fiance went away to visit her like cousin for like several months and came back, and all of a sudden she's pregnant, and I know full well that I never tapped that, never once, I would be looking at that and be like, nah, dog. nah, dog. Belong to the streets, bro.
Yeah. Yeah, no, Joseph.
If she had stayed, like if she was with him like every single day, like maybe then it would have been okay. But the fact that like she was away for that long and then she comes back all of a sudden she's pregnant and be like, I don't know about that. And then like they travel all this way to like have this baby while like King Herod and them trying to kill him. And then,
Yeah.
like the next thing you know, like 3 like wise men, 3 kings, all decked out in like bling and all the drip, be giving her gifts and everything. I'd be like, wait a second.
Yeah. That's how I was like, man. Yeah, that's why you really call her a wingman, and I don't mean that's the pun not intended when I say that. Where Angel Gabriel just comes in and says, don't worry, bro. She's right. She's telling the truth. He's like, huh?
No, I can vouch for her, bro. I can vouch for her.
Yeah. What? Yeah, it is quite. You're right. It is a weird story and strange, definitely. For all the circumstances surrounding it, but in its strangeness, there is a beauty of it in the how Mary Mary receives it, and how delighted she is with that beauty of it, and actually taking on this honor that God would find favor in her to give her this honor to be the mother of Christ, the Messiah, that blessed Messiah that was so that up to that point in history had been foretold for so long, and for so long, or so the hope that the Jewish people had, and that they trusted in. Or for those that did trust in Yahweh, the Lord, that Messiah that would be coming is finally here. That's the beauty of that. It is, yeah, you're right. It is a weird story when you look at it like that, for sure. Like, so I wanted to. I thought this was a interesting question for you. When you think of between what are the things that strike when you think of Jesus and Santa Claus, and what just off the bat, because the reason why I ask is typically when like, obviously those figures are not only contrasted, although that they're all when the whole season comes, they're happening at the same time. The thought of Santa Claus, this is like for me, and how I've kind of seen it in Santa Claus, is the you don't normally see him that much aside from Jesus and whatnot in a babe in a manger. Yeah, like what do you think about when you think of that?
Well, it's hard to say because like they've always been so Jesus and Santa Claus. They've always been so divorced for me. Like
Yeah.
I've never once really seen a whole lot of connection between Santa Claus and Jesus, just aside from like they're two like larger than life figures who like basically exist to like spread joy and happiness, or something like that. But like other than that very very vague face level description, there's not a whole lot of like overlap that I find. Like there's not a whole lot. Like sure, Santa Claus is like, I guess, borderline omniscient in that like he sees you when you're sleeping and he knows when you're awake, and like he's making a list and checking it twice to like see who's gonna give you Christmas presents or not. And like, I guess Jesus is making a list too, but it's a bit more. It's a bit more super serial than that.
Yeah.
Whereas like Santa Claus is making a list of like who gets a lump of coal and who gets a present, Jesus making a list of who gets to live or die. It's a bit more severe.
Yeah. Now that's we get to where Jesus because one may ask, and I know there will be, and then when looking at this conversation, one has to ask, what gives Santa Claus the authority to live or die? Like not live or die, but to judge the good or bad. What gives him to the right to really do that? Like again, putting aside the philosophical question, what defines goodness or badness? What gives him the authority to really even do that? That they say, oh, you're getting a whoop, and you guys get gifts.
What gives Santa Claus the authority to like break into your house at night and leave you random unwrapped presents?
Yeah.
If it's not a police precinct, they probably say it was bomb threat.
that would be interesting, breaking into the police department.
It's like that episode of Brooklyn Nine-Nine where like Amy tries to
was
give
really thinking that's what I was thinking about. That's exactly what I was thinking about. Yeah.
There's a bomb. Yeah, like just the fact that like who gives them the authority to do that? Who gives them the authority to like leave presents in your house, like break into your place, and like to have 24/7 surveillance on you through all 365 days of the year? Like, what gives them the authority to do that? Like, he's just some jolly old fat man who lives in the North Pole. Like, and I love how we're just like constantly fat shaming Santa Claus this entire episode. Like,
yeah,
if you're gonna add me on Twitter, joke's on you. I don't have Twitter.
He's like, Santa, we gotta talk about we gotta talk about like
intervention.
Like, yeah, intervention, bro.
Lay out for cookies, my guy. Like it's been like what 2,000 years, like.
We have to talk about. We have to say like, Mrs. Claus, bro. Like Mrs. Claus for like enabling that, man. Like, bro, you're enabling. Man has a problem.
Like, you don't know that Mrs. Claus is an excellent chef.
Yeah, like hey, no. I love food. I ain't gonna say nothing about your cooking, but you gotta do something about that gut though. Like,
yeah. But then again, it's obvious that Santa Claus doesn't exactly have like the same physiological restrictions that we as like mortal men do. Because like if he was going to like die of a heart attack or like have like his arteries clogged or like get diabetes or something, what would have happened? A long
time ago. Yep. Yeah, you're right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you know me. What does this guy do for basically the rest of the year? What you just sit like you sit there. There's only one night. That's where you get the amen.
He said like the entire year just like preparing for that night, just like training. Like for all we know, he could have like the same physiological components of say like the Kingpin. Like he could be like completely made of like solid muscle, but like he has like some sort of glandular disorder that makes it just appear to be like just like body fat. Maybe I don't know. He could be like a sumo wrestler. Like.
Yeah, you're right. You're just preparing for that one night, bro. I got my workout for like the rest of the year.
Yeah, like he has 2 tattoos on his biceps, one naughty and nice.
Oh yeah, isn't that the from the Rise of the Guardians? Was it yeah. Yo, Rise of the Guardians, that was dope.
Flashback, bro. Holy,
right?
I forgot all about that movie. My gosh.
Rise of the Guardians, that was dope. After that was awesome.
The Avengers before the Avengers.
Right? Right? Oh, wow. Yo, Jack Frost with that. Ooh. that was dope with the and that version of Easter Bunny was actually I could get behind that. Like
Like Hugh Jackman.
really, it was Hugh Jackman.
That was Hugh Jackman.
What?
I
Really?
believe so. I'm like
What?
90% sure. But yeah, it was Hugh Jackman.
Hugh Jackman, bro. No wonder I like him. If Hugh Jackman wasn't the Easter Bunny, I would have no problem. No problem you laying these eggs in my house. How many times, bro?
It's ironic that he's playing the Easter Bunny because Hugh Jackman is the GOAT.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Oh, yeah. You're right. It is Hugh Jackman. Just yeah. You are right about that. Oh wow. Yeah. So where some with this area, the interesting thing about at least comparing and contrasting, why I think what I would say that Jesus is so much better, and then to responding to the question of what we were just posing of what gives Santa Claus the right, because I'm assuming we're assuming that he's just I'm assuming that he's a mortal man with supernatural abilities. I'm assuming that's the case, that he's just like some type of like I don't know if Christmas is it that the magic of Christmas keeps him alive, or that if he didn't have the magic of Christmas, would he just die?
Yeah, like if we all just like stopped celebrating Christmas like tomorrow,
yeah,
would there be a need for a Santa Claus? Like would he just like close up the shop and like get a regular job? Like
and just live out a normal and then obesity would come and kill him, and then time.
Yeah. Like he just like turned into like a withering skeleton, just like disintegrate into dust because he should have died like thousands of years ago. It's like whenever Black Adam says Shazam.
You're right. That's true. You are right about that. That is true entirely. Exactly. So the the answering question, what gives him the right to do that if he's a mortal man? Now, if we tackle that on a philosophical level, he doesn't have the right to do that. To the judge to do that if he's well in the sense that he isn't from this a judge in that sense. He's a sinner. That's one. That's if he's a mortal man, he's a sinner. He has a human heart. By virtue of being human, he's a sinner. I know it's a taboo word, but it's the truth. He is a sinner. And he's in just as need as salvation. He's in just as need as Christ, as both you and I. Yeah, he does his old business and whatnot. We could talk about hey, look at his gluttony problems. It was like
yeah, and like he's apparently running like an entire like slave trade of like diminutive elf creatures. Like, is he paying them? Like, is he paying them in room and board? It's like, or is it like Willy Wonka in the Chocolate Factory? Did he just like journey to like a far distant land where like these elves used to live? And it's like, hey, if you want to like stop living in the jungle, like a bunch of like primitive, like a bunch of like primitive tribal people, and like come to my place where I got like heating and like we got indoor plumbing and like food for you to eat, like. As long as you work every like 365 days a year to like make toys for me so that I can like go and deliver them to the children of the world. How about that? How do you feel,
huh? Yeah, in the movies, that kind of got me. Is it like, are they paid in like candy canes? Like what is it, like Christmas cheer? Ooh, like what? I don't know. Like, what is the expense of elves? What elves their currency? What do they get out of it?
Where is Santa getting the financing to even do all these projects? They've been able to make all these toys. Like they're able to do all this stuff. Like, does he?
I guess it just comes from the Christmas. Like it's just the magic. That's what the magic comes from. I don't know. That's the thing. Hey, like hey, when you have such a the North Pole must be huge. Like must be huge to have something like that. Oh, I know this is a side note, but I have to ask you before. Like, have you ever, when you were in elementary school? I don't know if you ever did this, but did you ever write letters to Santa to those
Oh
birthdays?
yes, oh yes, oh yes.
Okay. Yeah. I remember that. Did you ever like actually like pay attention to see if I ever got back?
No.
No.
I would think about it for the first like maybe 2 3 days, but like after like a week I'd forget. I'd straight up forget. And like
You know, mhm. You know, for me, I remember thinking this, and it made sense to me. When the teacher came, gave us the whole letter, said, "Oh, right here, it was the Santa asked what you want for Christmas and whatnot." And it was through Canada Post, and it was going to be Santa. I'm like, where was it going to? It's going to be Canada Post. Oh, Canada. And then I remember the North Pole. So I thought, oh, so it's like Canada is they kind of have like a deal with Santa Claus. They just like just straight like the Santa, they just gonna hook us up like
that's
just
the first line.
yeah yeah no that was no little. I remember thinking that as a kid. That's how it was. Oh so Canada's hooked up still like really. Oh my gosh! Just because it's the North Pole, it's like what? Okay, like that's dope.
Yeah. Little did you know that all of those letters that like all the children of the world have been writing over the years probably like propping up somebody's coffee table somewhere, like you just like tingling for the fireplace, like
Yeah. I had to. I think it was grade 8. I had a kid. Those little buddies that you do. I had to do that. That was one of the most surreal moments when I had to like help him like write this letter. I'm like,
oh
man,
yeah, I remember that. You had to like
huh?
over regular whatever thing like
Yeah, it's very interesting. I'm like, huh, that is very surreal. There to
yeah,
be
now that I
the
think
other
about it,
side.
I do remember a lot of times where like I wrote letters to Santa Claus and like I actually did like look to see if he actually delivered, like if I actually got what I wanted. Like I remember like I might have asked for like I don't know, like a Ben 10 watch, like an Omnitrix for
Mhm.
Christmas that like actually worked, or like I might have asked for like like a new car or like a laptop or something, and like when I wouldn't get that on Christmas morning, I'd be like, I kind of feel like Santa Claus is one of the root reasons why I have trust issues today.
Never delivered. No, it never delivered, bro. Like, what
It's
happened?
like, bro, I can't rely on nobody for nothing. Like, not even Santa Claus got you back.
Yeah, it's so funny. Yeah,
But going
and
back to like our comparisons and like
yeah.
contrast of like Jesus to Santa Claus, like unlike Santa Claus who says that he's got your back, that he will meet your every need. But like the second you ask for a lightsaber for Christmas, all of a sudden he goes silent. All of a sudden he can't deliver. But Jesus, he's always got your back no matter what. Like he's always there for you. Like he's always down for you. Like he's always in your corner. Like he's always like Jesus has always delivered me from like every like hard time, every trial of my life. I can honestly say I can say that with like great confidence and great like gratitude that like in my life I've had a lot of like there's been a lot of points in my life where like I've found myself stuck, where I found myself in like very very tough situations that like didn't feel fair or didn't feel like felt hopeless, but like Christ always delivered. Christ always came through for me. Christ was
Yeah.
always there for me in like
Mhm.
sometimes in more obvious ways, sometimes in more subtle ways, but like he's
Mhm.
always that one guy that like has my back. So like even though Santa Claus
Mhm. Yeah.
even though Santa Claus would be making fake promises, like
Yeah.
when Jesus makes a promise, he delivers.
Yeah. Yeah. Now it's also important to note to make the major difference, like that for Jesus isn't like our as some people put it, our divine sugar daddies. Like he isn't again like as people some people like to
That's
say.
beautiful.
Yeah.
That's a divine sugar daddy, bro.
Yeah, it doesn't. That's not exactly how it works. Like Jesus is not concerned with the necessarily the importance that what he is concerned about is your soul, the state of your soul, your heart. Um, so many times, constantly, Jesus is where I think it's the paralytic man. The paralytic man. I think in Mark, where he goes and I think it's early Mark. Yeah, I'd have to find it exactly. Um, but I know for sure that he goes to this man, and well, one of the most interesting things what he says is he tells the man to he said to get up and walk, and your sins are forgiven. No, get up and walk, and your sins are forgiven. Go sin no more, or something like that. But he tells him to get up and walk, and then also to sin no more, like doesn't sin. And he the interesting thing about that is like, what is why are you talking about my sin? I want to walk. Like the man is paralyzed. He's paralyzed. So he's like, bro, like, I want to walk. What are you talking about that? I don't need to worry about that. It's showing what Jesus is worried because the key reason is sin being the root of the root of entire situation of the human condition. That is what our nature. What that Jesus is concerned about, and there are many other situations, many other examples of where he addresses the sin that's in our hearts. Mark 7. He makes wow. Cool. You can go where the Pharisees come and talk about to Jesus. Well, they're challenging him on the kosher laws. The kosher laws are you know what kosher is, right? Yeah, I don't know if you know what kosher is. The Jewish kosher. Certain things they don't need to whatnot, the cleanliness and so on and so forth. And why the disciples aren't clean and aren't abiding by it. And he basically slaps them, tells them that tells them that, are you so dull? Like I'm not calling you that. That's a quote. Like he's like, are you so dull that you do not know that's not what goes in. That's what goes into your that when you eat, like you go and talks about the digestive system and like it goes down and then it comes out. But it's not what goes into you that makes you unclean, but what's what comes from out of the heart that makes a man unclean. And he makes a list of the different things that come out: evil thoughts, fornication, slander, and all bunch of other different sins, and that comes from the heart. He addresses the human heart. That's our problem. Of it's not something that's ethereal that out there that comes to this that's often assumed is that it's something out there. Evil is out there. This kind of this stuff that kind of corrupts us, right? That kind of corrupts people. People will say society or culture or a power in those sense that they may corrupt people in that sense. But Jesus points to it's that it starts in your heart, comes from your heart that is the problem, and that's what needs to be addressed. That makes a man unclean, and so that's one of the most fascinating things of Jesus.
Yeah, that's an interesting take on it. That's a very interesting take on it. That like often when we're faced with like hard times of like struggle, that like our reactions to it can often like combined with like God's intervention and like God's like guiding hand that's like always there to like support you. That like if your reaction to like the situation that you're in that like sort of determines the outcome of it. Is that what?
Well, there is yeah, to some degree that are when hardship was suffering, at least at least how it's represented in the Bible at times, and in so many stories, and the situations of different of the individuals, and like so, for example, one of the where when so this is go back to Genesis, Genesis 4, yeah, it's Genesis 4, where Cain and Abel, right? One of the things that Jesus, no, not Jesus, God says, to Cain, which is so fascinating, is that that Cain is like getting mad, and he's like, well, why are you angry, and so on and so forth. Yeah, super. There's a lot.
Bro.
Yeah, like, why are you getting mad, bro? Just relax, chill. And what God says to Cain, he says that sin, kata, that's the Hebrew word for sin, khata, sin is crouching at the door, waiting to devour you. Overcome it, and overcome it. That saying that we as human beings, like that, have the capacity to overcome the our sin, that now the problem when it comes to contrast this with Jesus and this situation, that like you said, like, there is a aspect, yeah, that how we react to suffering, that to trust in God in these times of suffering, when what Jesus says talks about, he doesn't say that that we're not going to suffer. Mm-mm. Actually, Christ says the opposite. Christ says the opposite, that you will suffer for my sake.
Like, in a lot of ways. Like,
yeah, like he said, we will suffer for his sake, like for his sake, like from in my name you will suffer. That to take up my cross, take up your cross and follow me. That he Jesus so many times point out that the importance of it points out that, yeah, I get it, I know it's hard, you're suffering, that is the reality, but it's not this world that is necessarily important, but it's through relationship with me that I will give you the strength to actually persevere to get through it. And it's not to say because I suffer that then I definitely do not go blaspheme God and say that God is the one, is you could say that God is not good because he allows certain things to happen. And I mean, that again, I'm not going to go down the rabbit hole of that whole situation of the theological, but like that there are things that we know. I mean, Job, man, that story, that's a
doozy.
Yeah, right. And I know we have an episode planned for that. I want me to unpack that. So that's one that's going to be a good one. We can go whole into that whole situation. And what it's very complicated. It is a complicated scenario, but when we are not to just say that God is still good. And I'll finish before and I'll on this. One of the best stories that kind of addresses that, even that we can still trust in that God's sovereignty, that sometimes He will allow certain things to happen in our lives to achieve even a greater purpose. That though we may not see it while we are in it, that even in when we can look back in our lives within this linear plane of time, we can somehow look back and hey man, this is where God is. Maybe in my life and so on. Interesting that that's the limited time in our lifetime. I know both me and you can both say, I know you agree with us, that we can look back and say that in our lives, and this is just in the short span of our lives, and we can see that to even say that maybe some things that God was allowing that so that He could do some good work in our hearts to make us to who we are now. In if it worked for the benefit, that so one of the best stories was the story of Joseph. You know, Joseph, the Technicolor Dreamcoat. I don't know if you watched that
movie.
Not the DreamWorks movie. I was thinking of the play. Yeah.
Yeah. I swear we saw the play together.
Really? Did we?
Our family saw the play together. I remember you being there.
Well, I did we did where I was supposed to introduce to it was in grade 4. Maybe we did it. Maybe you're right. It was I love it. Donny Osmond when he does that. Oh yeah, it was the Joseph the Technicolor Dreamcoat that was a great play. But just when we go to the story in Egyptian Genesis with Joseph, his he's favored amongst his father shows he's really the favorite of his 12 brothers, of many women that Jacob has, and he's the second youngest. Benjamin is youngest, and but he's loved, and so what happens goes on to say, if anyone doesn't know, Joseph, his brothers, jealous brothers, are sell him into slavery and
that was crazy.
yeah.
Jumped in one day and be like, "Hey yo, run that coat."
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they dunked him.
They're like,
yeah, exactly. Yeah, and then they sell him into slavery. He gets to Egypt, and he's a servant, and over time, he works his way up the house. I'm just breezing over it just to get over there and then get to the significant part. He works up his house, up the servant house, and then he is the most favored amongst in the house, the most respected servant. He's the master servant, is what we would say, the butler, or if you want to say this in today's terms. And but then he kind of actually, he kind of actually I won't use that term. If you know what I was about to say,
I think I know what you're talking
the Potiphar's wife, which is his master's wife, accuses him of rape, basically, of that she forces upon him, and then his master, as a man normally would say, because he was alone with them. Yeah, she tried to force himself on him,
and like even in reality, it was the opposite. It was the opposite case, was it not? Like she was trying to get his stance.
Yeah, and Joseph's response is being a godly man. Because I would not just be sinning against you, I would also be sinning against God. And it would not be, a real man, a real man of God, and he was punished for it. And
he ain't no sin.
So he Potiphar comes in, punishes him, throws him in jail. I believe it's 20 years. 20 years he's in jail or something.
20 years.
Don't quote me on
that long.
I don't quote me on that, but it's a long time. I know it's a long time. He was in jail for a long time. And there's a whole bunch of things that go on, dreams, and he's interpreting these the butler of the pharaoh, the butler. He's in jail, and there's the baker and whatnot, and a whole bunch of dreams, weird dreams.
Wasn't there like a winemaker or something, or like
yeah, the wine bearer, I think, some type of a bearer or something. There's a baker, and then there's a wine bearer or something like you're saying.
Yeah.
And he interprets all those dreams, and eventually Joseph makes it out of prison when the pharaoh calls him out because he's all having these weird dreams, and the butler eventually, now that he's out, he's actually working for the pharaoh again. He remembers him. He's like, yo, there's this guy in prison, and he interpreted my dreams. If you want, you can get him, and so he does, and Joseph interprets his dream, and it's this whole thing on famine. That there's going to be 7 years of prosperity, riches, and on the land, of fruits and honey, coke and milk and honey, is like they normally would say, prosperity, in Egypt. And then there's 7 years of famine. So obviously that's bad. Then so what happens is that Pharaoh decides to says, you know what, Joseph, I'm going to make you my second-hand man. You're going to be my the guy I go to. Guys, you're better than all these other bozos, the sorcerers, the dream interpreters that he already has.
Basically, the witch doctors from the Prince of Egypt. You're playing with the big boys now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, these guys, get these guys out of here. Yeah, this man, my man Joseph, like he is the big guy. What Joseph is going to do is to manage the resources of Egypt, to make sure one, to feed the people, while also storing for the time to come, for that 7 years of famine, so we won't be hurting. It's not going to be a devastation. There won't be any food, and so there's the whole thing. Now this is where we get to the interesting part, the fascinating part, kind of the pinnacle, near the end of the story of Joseph's story. So Canaan, which is the town where Jesus, no, sorry, not Jesus, Joseph comes from. He grew up with his family. He his brothers, like, they were hit hard in the famine of it. They're out of it. They're hit hard. They don't know Joseph anything. They think Joseph is dead at this point in time. They think the great. They most likely, like, he'd be dead by now. That's what they hope. So they don't know. They go to Egypt. They hear that Egypt is blessed. It's blessed and has all types of things, and because there's nothing, they have no wild, they can't hunt. It's the famine. So they go over. They go to Egypt and get to the court, and they going to beg for food, so that they bring back for their father. Jacob, their father is back at home in Canaan, and to actually to feed themselves. And this is the pinnacle of the story, the absolute. And they don't recognize Joseph. This is Joseph they're meeting. They don't recognize him because he's obviously like been he's in gold, lavished in gold. He is. Yeah, he looks great, makeup and whatnot, Egyptian makeup, and the whole ordeal. Again, they think he's dead. They don't recognize him, and obviously Joseph obviously knows who they are, and they and then eventually he reveals himself to them. Obviously they're shocked. They're shocked. I mean, they're shocked, bro. They're like,
it's so awkward. They'll be like.
No.
Hey, it's my favorite brother. Yeah. We were just messing around.
Yeah. Really. It's really that moment, because Joseph, he has the authority. He could have thrown them in prison. He could have thrown them in prison. I hate y'all. Y'all could die. If he told them the guards to kill me, they would have been dead. He been gone. Easy. It'd have been over. He could have done that. He could have just brought wrath upon them. But he responded. One of the most fascinating things that Joseph responded to what they were taught, what they had done to him, is that you meant it for evil, but God meant it for good, the saving of many lives. Like that, through that, right? Like that, through that, though their evil of jealousy, of betrayal, traveled on into the future, that God used that to do good works, to do good things for the people of Egypt through Joseph. That he did amazing, that absolutely. I encourage anyone to go and read that full story. It's until you can see every intricacy of what we were into. I'm just trying to breeze through as much as possible of what the gist of it. But that's what I meant is by that sometimes. And Joseph, through all that entire ordeal, that he was still faithful to God. He was still faithful. He trusted in God and all that. I absolutely.
God for everything that went wrong in his life.
Yeah,
I could have just sat down and be like, bro, God, I trusted you. You said that I was supposed to be like the Eastern Morning Star or whatever. Gave me all these dreams talking about how I was supposed to be like the greatest among my family, and now you allow them to throw me into slavery? Like, bro, I'm done with you. Like, he could have done that. He could have just done either one of that.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, he didn't. He didn't.
Yeah,
he stayed faithful, and he stayed God's loyal and faithful servant, even throughout everything, even throughout men's wives throwing themselves at him, even with getting thrown in prison because of it, even through all of that, the bad hands that he was dealt, Joseph always kept his faith because he knew that God would deliver him from no matter where he ended up.
Mm-hmm.
It's like Lin-Manuel Miranda writes in like the musical Hamilton, I am the one thing in life I can control. You're the only thing in your life that you can control. Like your actions are the only thing that you can control. The situation that surrounds you always changes. The people around you always change, come and go. But the only thing that you can control is what you choose to make out of it, is what you choose to do with it. And in many ways, like the places that you choose to look, are you going to look to Santa Claus, this like good time Charlie who like comes into your house at night and like eats your milk and cookies and leaves you presents that like half the time wasn't even what you asked for? Or instead of going to someone who's just going to give you what you want, are you going to go to the great I am, the almighty being who is going to give you what you need?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, which is salvation. That's what we ultimately need. And yeah, through it all, we know that God is still good. He is still good. We know he is still faithful through it all, and that we can trust. We can trust in his faithfulness, not only for all that he's done for us, but on what he's doing now in our hearts. Once you accept him into his heart, what he does for us, the hope that he gives for it's not just the hope that we have is not just for it's not just like a ethereal promise, not like wishful thinking. It is a grounded hope based off of the things that God has done previously, and that we can trust in that based off of the resurrection. Ultimately, is the resurrection. The resurrection is that is the greatest fulfillment of God's promises to redeem us, the rebels, the same ones who rebelled against Him back in Genesis 3. The same ones, but yet despite it all, right? Look at all the stuff that we did, humanity's done, but yet God decided to give himself in the form of a babe, going back to the nursery, in the form of a babe, humbled himself to be just a vulnerable baby for you and I's sakes. The God of the universe. Think about that. The God of the universe,
who created the universe.
The who created the universe decided, which not for his sake, but for our sake, to humble himself to be like a servant. That's quoting Philippians 2, to be like a servant for you and I, that who one day would come to would die on Calvary's cross for our sake, and would rise again to would give us life. It's not just like life here, it's life eternal, like as in the sense of eternity, like for us, you and I, and for those that accept Christ, that eternal life is in communion with God, is with the giver of life, the creator of life. That that's why where Jesus says, I'm the bread of life, the bread of life, that when you eat me, you will no longer hunger. You know, you can rest
in a metaphorical sense. Probably clear that.
No, not in the in the metaphorical sense. Yes, when you eat from from Jesus,
from the Word of God.
No longer hunger. Yeah, that's what from, was it Deuteronomy 8 something, that a man shall not live by bread alone, but every mouth that comes from the Word of God. And the whole, you get the full verse of that back in Deuteronomy. That's even more fascinating. But yeah, like that is the gospel, is that though we were in sin, estranged, separated from God, God still loved us, and he had mercy on us. Despite all of that, we can trust in that. Is that not good news? Is that not good news? Um,
One
that's
would say that it's the greatest news of all.
yeah.
Yeah.
This is Ephesians 2. I was to read this Ephesians 2. But because of his great love for us, God, who is rich in mercy, made us alive in Christ, even when we were dead in transgressions. It is by grace you have been saved. And God, who raised us up with Christ, and seated us with him in the heavenly realms in Christ Jesus, in order that in the coming ages he might show the incomparable riches of his grace expressed in the kindness to us in Christ Jesus. For it is by grace you have been saved through faith, and then this is not from yourselves. It is the gift of God, not by works, so that no one can boast. For we are God's workmanship, created in Christ Jesus to do good works which God prepared in advance for us to do us to do. That that is the gospel, well articulated. That we can rest. That yeah, like Jesus says that all you weary, come and I will give you rest. That we can rest in the hope that He has given us. That we don't have to be afraid. We don't have to be afraid of what is to come. In that sense, that our hope lies in Christ and in God, the one eternal who sees all, that knows all, who is sovereign over it all, and we can trust in His goodness, despite our circumstances and whatever this world that we live in. We can trust in that, and yeah.
Amen to that. So
Yeah.
that's the
Yeah.
message that we want to leave you on this Christmas season. That one more thing.
Yeah, one more thing. Yeah, I just want to leave with the to tie in the last part, just leave it a bit on from the the birth narrative, just a bit from that. And an angel of the Lord appeared to them. Oh no, I'll start here. And there were shepherds living out in the fields nearby, keeping watch over the flocks at night. And an angel of the Lord appeared to them, and the glory of the Lord shone around them, and they were terrified. But the angel said to them, "Do not be afraid. I bring you good news of the great joy that will be for all people. Today, in the town of David, a Savior has been born to you. He is Christ the Lord. This will be a sign to you. You will find a manger wrapped in clothes and lying in a manger." Suddenly, a great company of heavenly hosts appeared with the angel, praising God and saying, "Glory to God in the highest, and on earth peace to men on whom his favor rests." And that is the joy. When we talked about the magic of Christmas, the contrast between Santa and Jesus, that is the joy, the hope, the true magic of Christmas. It isn't Santa. It isn't this the big jolly old guy. No, it is in the hope and that of Christ, like we said, the God, the creator of the universe, who, yeah, because he is God, does have the authority to judge the living and the dead, right from wrong. That is intrinsic to who he is, because he's God. He does know everything that we are. The greatest gift that he has ever given us is our son, is his son, Jesus Christ. So by way we can have relationship and communion with him, and we can know him intimately. That is the greatest gift that you're ever gonna give. Than any material gift that Santa could ever give. None of that can compare to the eternal gift of Jesus Christ. That's what the hope that I hope that we can remember this Christmas season.
Mm-hmm. And funny enough, I think that verse that you just quoted is the exact same verse that Linus says in A Charlie Brown Christmas. So
Really?
I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure word for word. When Charlie Brown had that tiny little tree that he brought, and everybody was just roasting, and be like, "Bro, Charlie Brown got us this little tree for our Christmas play," and then Charlie Brown just "Dang it! Every time I try and do something nice, I just end up screwing up somehow." Well, does anybody know what the real meaning of Christmas is about? Then Linus says, "I can tell you what the true meaning of Christmas is about, Charlie Brown." And then he gets on the stage and then he says that exact verse. He says that exact verse word for word. So
that was not planned. You heard that first here. That was not planned. That was
completely unplanned. Completely.
Yeah. Totally not a coincidence. If you have heard that before, I've not watched the Charlie Brown Christmas. Actually, I've never watched.
You've never seen a Charlie Brown Christmas?
Yeah, I've seen glimpses of it, but I never actually watched it where I've remembered anything. I've never. No, I know it's that. It's
that was the Christmas special of my childhood, bro. A lot of people the Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeers and the Frosty the Snowman's. Nah, man, my boy Charlie Brown. So that's how. On that note, we'd like to thank you all for listening to this special holiday spectacular of the Secret Crisis Podcast. Jaiden, you can tell them where to find our podcast, while I tell them to. You can follow me at I am Superfly on Instagram. That's I am Superfly spelled with an A, not an ER. That's IAMSUPAFLY. I am Superfly on Instagram, where I do fan art of different Marvel, DC, Nickelodeon, whatever I choose to, and where I also promote this current ongoing graphic novella series that I write and draw myself, Superfly, the Guardian. So if you want to know more about me, and if you want to know more about what I do and all the other different projects I'm working on, you can go ahead, follow me on Instagram at I am Superfly. Jaiden, where can they find you, and where can they find the podcast?
You can find us. Oh, well, first you can find me at Jaiden.C.Jones. That's the letter C.C. Jones. You can find the podcast on the official Instagram page, the Secret.Crisis. And you can find the podcast on every platform. As of now, it is on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Breaker, and Pocket Cast, and Radio Public, and also YouTube. You can find that now at the Secret Crisis Podcast. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel, leave a comment if you feel obligated to. Apple Podcasts, leave a review. Please leave a review. That would be great. We really appreciate that. Let us know if you like the podcast. Let us know if you like the podcast. Let us know if there's anything you think we could improve on. Let us know. Give us whatever rating you think we deserve. And thank you guys. It has been a blessing to do this podcast. I know both of us this has been a real blessing, a real accomplishment. And of all 2020, and the match has been, my gosh, this podcast has been one glimmering light, one of the few glimmering lights I've had, something I can be really proud of. I know we both could be really proud of for this the time that we've done it. So, and thank you for everyone that has been tuning in, and that will eventually, if this is your first episode, thank you for tuning in for this episode, and we really hope that you will continue to listen for the new year. You stick with us, and we really appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, and before we bow out of this podcast, just want to if for those of you who don't know, at the time of this recording, it is Christmas Eve. Mm-hmm. I almost said January. December 24th, Christmas Eve, also known as Jaiden's birthday.
Oh.
So, if you're planning on leaving a review for this particular episode, and if you've made it this far, be sure to leave a happy birthday, love you, Jaiden, whatever. Wish him a happy birthday. It's his big 18th. It's a
Yeah.
legal adult. So
Yeah.
leave
Thank
a
you.
message, leave a happy birthday for him, and let him know how much you appreciate him. So
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
thanks, guys.
Mhm.
Peace.
Okay. Peace out, Secret Keepers.
Merry Christmas.